During a family ski vacation, my son pushed me off a snowy mountain with the words, "A storm is coming. I hope you get lost." He returned to the hotel, thinking I was gone forever in the blizzard, but when he entered the lobby, I was already waiting for him, not alone. Seeing who was with me, he fell to his knees and begged forgiveness for a failed joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was betrayal, and the consequences won't be escaped. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. 7 months ago, I thought moving to Aspen was the beginning of my golden years. After 30 years as a federal prosecutor, I'd earned my retirement. My son Jeremiah invited me to live with him, his wife Quinley, and my grandchildren in my own house, the one I'd bought 15 years ago. I imagined skiing with the grandkids, family dinners, maybe finally being the grandfather I'd been too busy to be. February 1st shattered that illusion. I was in my study when I heard Quinley's voice from the kitchen, that careful casualness people use when they think they're alone. "Just a little longer, and we'll finally be able to sell this property," she said. A pause. "No, he doesn't suspect a thing. Jeremiah says everything will be resolved by spring." My hand froze. Sell what property? Unless she meant this house? My house? The old man is stubborn. We just need him to sign the papers. Laughter. "Don't worry. We have a plan. The ski trip next week should help move things along. Sometimes people realize they need more help than they thought." I moved silently to the doorway and cleared my throat. She spun around, panic flashing across her face before her smile appeared. "Oh, Janet, I have to go." She beamed at me. "Gordon, want some coffee?" "No, thank you." I studied her the way I'd studied thousands of witnesses. "Who was that?" "Just a friend from my yoga class." She began wiping the counter. "Planning for our ski trip. You're still coming, right?" "Wouldn't miss it." That evening at dinner, everything came into focus. My grandchildren, Grace and Daniel, sat subdued across from me. When had their laughter stopped? Jeremiah set down his wineglass, his third. "Dad, we need to talk about the house paperwork." "What paperwork?" "The transfer documents I mentioned last week. For tax purposes, it makes sense to put the house in my name. You'll still live here, but it simplifies estate planning." I set down my fork. "I don't recall you mentioning this." "Maybe you forgot?" He glanced at Quinley, who nodded. "I have the papers ready. My notary friend can come tomorrow." "I'll use my own notary," I said pleasantly, "and I'd like my attorney to review them first." The temperature dropped. "Your attorney?" "Dad, this is family business. Standard procedure for any property transfer. I'd caught countless frauds in my career. It's not personal." "You know what?" Jeremiah threw his napkin down. Grace flinched. "You're unbelievable. We've opened our home to you, taken care of you, and you can't even do this one simple thing?" "Jeremiah," Quinley's hand landed on his arm, but her eyes were cold. "No, I'm done." He leaned toward me, wine on his breath. "You won't live forever, Dad. You're 67. Why can't you just make things easier for us?" The words hung like a threat. Grace looked terrified. Daniel stared at his plate. "What my husband means is we worry," Quinley said. "If something happens suddenly." "My affairs are in order," I said quietly. "They've been since I was 45. "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" He shoved back from the table. "Fine. Waste money on lawyers. See if I care." He stormed out. His study door slammed. Quinley gathered the plates. No one had finished. "He's stressed about work. The market's tough." Daniel pulled back when she reached for his plate. "Kids, homework." They fled. "What does Jeremiah do for work?" I asked. She paused. "Investment consulting." "And how's that going?" "Fine. Great, actually." She wouldn't meet my eyes. That night, I lay awake in the guest room of my own house. The guest room. When had I stopped sleeping in the master bedroom? It had been gradual. Quinley suggesting the master was better for them because of the bathroom, the closet space for their clothes. Each reason had sounded logical at the time, each concession small enough to seem reasonable. Now I wondered how many other things I'd surrendered through these small, carefully worded requests. My dignity, my home, my life. I replayed the day in my mind like reviewing evidence for a case. Quinley's phone call about selling property and having a plan. Jeremiah's insistence on signing documents without legal review. His comment about me not living forever. delivered with such casual cruelty while my grandchildren watched. The ski trip that would move things along. What did that even mean? In my career, I'd learned that people rarely commit crimes on impulse. There's usually a pattern, a buildup of smaller transgressions that lead to the big one. Small thefts before the major embezzlement, minor assaults before the murder, each step testing boundaries, seeing what they could get away with, building confidence for the next escalation. I'd missed the pattern while it was forming around me. I'd been too busy enjoying retirement, too happy to believe my son actually wanted to spend time with me after all these years of being an absent father, buried in cases in courtrooms while he grew up. But I wasn't missing it anymore. Sleep didn't come. Instead, memories surfaced, like evidence photos, in a case file. December. I'd been organizing my important documents, the deed to the house, investment statements, insurance policies. I'd left them on my desk while I went to answer the door. When I came back, Quinley was standing over the desk, a coffee mug in her hand. "Oh, I'm so clumsy." The mug was overturned, dark liquid spreading across my papers. "Let me clean this up." She'd gathered the documents before I could stop her. "I'll make copies. Don't worry." The copies she'd given me later had seemed fine, but now I wondered what else she might have done with those originals. November. Jeremiah had shown up with a notary. "Dad, this is Martin, a friend of mine. I mentioned you needed to update your will." I hadn't mentioned anything of the sort. Since he's here anyway. I'd politely declined and called my own notary the next day. Jeremiah had been irritable for a week afterward. October. That was when the health teas had started. Quinley had made a big production of it. These are special herbal blends for seniors. They'll help with energy, mental clarity, all of that. She'd serve them to me every morning with such theatrical concern. After drinking them, I'd felt foggy, disconnected. My hands would shake slightly. Once I'd forgotten where I'd parked my car at the grocery store. I'd wandered the parking lot for 20 minutes before finding it. I'd mentioned the symptoms to Quinley. "Oh, Gordon, that's just age. Maybe we should look into some care options." She'd left brochures for assisted living facilities on the kitchen counter. I'd thrown them away, but then I'd noticed something. The mornings I'd dump the tea down the sink while Quinley wasn't looking, claiming I was full or running late. I'd felt fine those days. Sharp, alert, like myself. So I'd started developing an allergy to the tea. The brochures had disappeared after that. Now, lying in the darkness, I felt cold. Had they been drugging me, trying to make me seem incompetent? January. The memory hit me hard. I'd taken out the trash and found a manila folder in the bin. Curious, we recycled paper. I'd pulled it out. Inside were brochures for nursing homes in Denver, not the nice ones. The budget facilities with small rooms and overworked staff. Someone had made notes in the margins. Cheapest option. And worse, accept patients without family consent? I'd confronted Quinley about it. "Oh, those? Someone dropped them off by mistake. I just threw them away." Her smile had been so smooth, so practiced. And then there was Daniel. My 9-year-old grandson had said something last week that I'd dismissed as childish confusion. We'd been building a Lego set together, one of the few times Quinley had left us alone. "Grandpa, are you going to live somewhere else soon?" "What? No, buddy. Why would you think that?" "Mom said you might go to a place where people take care of you. She said it would be better for everyone." I'd laughed it off, ruffled his hair. "Your mom worries too much. I'm not going anywhere." But Daniel's face had been serious. "She said you're getting forgetful, that you might not be safe here." My grandson, my own grandson, had been prepared for my removal. How long had they been laying this groundwork? I got out of bed at 2 a.m., moved quietly through the dark house to my study. In the back of my filing cabinet, behind folders of old cases, I kept my personal contacts. I pulled out the leather address book I'd maintained since law school. Some of the entries were 30 years old. Diana Strickland, family law attorney, sharp as a knife, had worked on several cases with me. Office in Aspen. Avon Johnson, private investigator, former colleague from my prosecutor days. Retired now, but still working private cases. Would know how to dig into financials quietly. Sheriff Darrell Winters. We'd worked together for 20 years. He'd know Colorado's elder abuse laws better than anyone. I photographed each page with my phone, then carefully returned the book to its hiding place. Tomorrow, I'd start gathering evidence. I'd been a prosecutor long enough to know that suspicions weren't enough. I needed proof, documentation, a case that would hold up under scrutiny. But there was one more thing bothering me. Jeremiah had mentioned our family ski trip next week. Snowmass Resort, a week-long vacation he'd insisted on. Quality family time before the season ends, he'd said. At the time, I'd been pleased. Now, though, I wondered about the timing, about how insistent he'd been, about the way Quinley had smiled when the trip was mentioned, that cold smile that never reached her eyes. I returned to bed as the first light of dawn crept through the window. In 7 days, we'd be on that mountain. And if my instincts were right, and 30 years as a prosecutor had taught me to trust my instincts, something was going to happen on that trip, something they were counting on. But I'd spent 3 decades building cases against people who thought they were smarter than the law. My son and his wife were about to learn that I hadn't forgotten how to fight. I just needed to be smarter, faster, and more careful than they were. The game had begun. They just didn't know I was playing yet. February 3rd, I woke early and drove into town, telling Quinley I needed supplies for the trip. First stop, a tech store. I bought a voice recording app. Perfectly legal in Colorado with one-party consent. The clerk showed me how to set it to record automatically with certain keywords. My grandfather uses this for meetings, he said. I didn't correct him. Back home, I waited until everyone was occupied. I activated the recorder and left my phone on the kitchen counter, then made noise in the hallway. Within minutes, Quinley's voice came from the living room. She must have come home early. Someone on speakerphone. No, the lawyer thing spooked Jeremiah, she was saying. We need to move faster. The ski trip. Yes, exactly. Once we're on that mountain, accidents happen. No, he won't suspect. The old fool still thinks his son loves him. Ice filled my veins, but I kept my breathing steady. I retrieved my phone and stopped the recording. February 4th brought more evidence. I accidentally left my study door ajar. Sure enough, within an hour, Jeremiah and Quinley were in the hallway, voices low but audible. Did you find his updated will? Jeremiah asked. No, but it doesn't matter. Once he signs the transfer papers, he won't sign. Not now. He's being difficult. Then we stick to plan B. Quinley's voice was ice. The mountains are dangerous, especially for a 67-year-old man who hasn't skied in years. What if it doesn't work? It'll work. And if anyone asked questions, we were devastated. Tried to talk him out of that difficult trail, but you know how stubborn he was. She paused. Make sure you leave your phone at the hotel. No GPS tracking. My hands clenched into fists. My own son planning my death as casually as ordering takeout. February 5th, I drove to downtown Aspen to Diana Strickland's office. We'd worked together on a particularly nasty divorce case 15 years ago. Gordon Hartwell. She stood and shook my hand firmly. I heard you'd retired. What brings you here? I played her the recordings. Her expression hardened with each word. When I finished, she sat back. How long has this been going on? Months, maybe longer. I showed her the documents Jeremiah had wanted me to sign. Can you tell me what these actually do? She read them carefully, jaw tightening. Gordon, if you'd signed these, you would have transferred complete ownership of your house to Jeremiah. The property is worth, what, $2.8 million? Approximately. And this one gives him power of attorney over all your financial accounts. Your savings, investments, everything. How much? About $340,000 in liquid assets. She set the papers down. You'd have given him everything. And with power of attorney, he could have committed you to a care facility against your will, claimed you were incompetent. You'd have had almost no recourse. She looked at me seriously. This is elder financial abuse. And based on those recordings, they're planning something worse. I know. My voice was steady. I need your help. You have it? She pulled out a legal pad. First, we document everything. Second, we investigate Jeremiah's finances. There's a reason for this sudden desperation. I have someone in mind. Avon Johnson. Remember him? The investigator? Perfect. Third, we need to think about this ski trip. I'm going... Her head snapped up. I need to know what they're planning. And if they try something, I'll be ready. Gordon, that's dangerous. I spent 30 years prosecuting criminals. I know how to handle myself. I leaned forward. I need this. Not just to protect myself, but to prove what they're doing. Otherwise, it's my word against theirs. She studied me for a long moment. You're not just protecting yourself. You're building a case. Exactly. All right. But we do this carefully, and we get law enforcement involved before anything happens. We spent the next hour planning. By the time I left, I had a clear strategy and an ally who understood. February 6th, I met Avon Johnson at a coffee shop in Glenwood Springs. He'd aged since I'd last seen him, more gray in his beard, lines around his eyes, but he still had that sharp look. Gordon, he gripped my hand. Been too long. Wish I were calling under better circumstances. I laid it all out. The recordings, the documents, the plans for the ski trip. His expression grew darker. Your own son. What do you need from me? His finances. I need to know why he's so desperate. There's a reason for this timing. Give me 48 hours. He pulled out a tablet and took notes. Bank accounts, credit cards, online activity. I'll find it. Avon, this needs to stay quiet. Gordon, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know how to be invisible. He looked at me seriously. But you need to be careful. If they're planning what you think. I know. I'm taking precautions. We shook hands. As I walked to my car, I felt the weight of what was coming. In 24 hours, we'd be leaving for Snowmass. But this time, I'd be ready. February 7th, moving day. Jeremiah loaded the car with enthusiasm I hadn't seen in months. Quinley supervised. The kids sat quietly in the back. The drive to Snowmass took 2 hours. Jeremiah talked the entire time about trails, conditions, quality family time. Each word felt like a blade. Quinley kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, checking, calculating. I played my part, though aging father, grateful, excited. Inside, I was counting down. We checked into the timberline. Our rooms were on the 3rd floor. Tomorrow we'll start with easy trails, Jeremiah said. Get you warmed up, Dad. It's been a while. 15 years. Exactly. We'll take it slow. But I saw how his eyes lingered on the trail map, on Highland Bowl, the most difficult terrain on the mountain. February 8th and 9th passed in observation. Jeremiah was patient. We stayed on green and blue runs. He played the devoted son. Quinley took photos, the perfect family vacation. But I noticed things. How Jeremiah studied weather forecasts. How Quinley commented about crowds. How nice it would be to get away. How they both watched me, assessing. February 10th. Everything became clear. I was on the chairlift when I heard a familiar voice ahead. Gordon? Gordon Hartwell? Alan Miller, an old acquaintance. A ski instructor at Snowmass for 15 years. Alan, good to see you. What brings you up? Haven't seen you in ages. Family vacation, my son insisted. We rode in silence. Then Alan said, Actually, funny you mention your son. I saw him last night at the Little Nell bar. He and his wife were having quite the conversation. My pulse quickened. Oh? Yeah, something about selling a house in Aspen after the old man figures something out. I probably shouldn't have been listening, but they were pretty loud. He shrugged. Divorce, maybe? Did you catch anything else? Well, your son came by the instructor station this week, asked about trail conditions, which routes were most dangerous. Alan laughed. I figured he was planning advanced skiing, wanted to know what to avoid. My blood ran cold. Which trails? Highland Bowl mostly, avalanche risks, visibility during storms, emergency response times. Alan looked at me. You planning to ski there? Because honestly, Gordon, at our age, stick to the groomers. Sage advice. We separated at the top. I skied down mechanically, mind racing. That evening, my phone buzzed. Text from Avon. Call me. Private. I stepped onto the balcony. Tell me, I said. Your son is drowning. He owes $85,000. Online gambling, poker sites, private loans from unpleasant people, documentation of threats. The deadline is March 15th, 3 weeks from now. How did it get this bad? Classic addiction spiral. Chasing losses, borrowing more. He paused. Gordon, some of these collectors don't take I need more time for an answer. I gripped the railing. So he needs money. Fast. More than that. A lot of money. Your house would more than cover his debts with plenty to spare. And if I'm not around to contest? Exactly. Diana called. She thinks you should cancel this trip, come back, handle this legally. I watched through the glass. Jeremiah sat on the couch, staring at his phone. His leg bounced with nervous energy. I can't. If I run now, they'll find another opportunity. I need to end this here, with witnesses, with evidence that can't be disputed. Gordon, Tomorrow's forecast calls for snow, heavy snow, starting noon. I'd checked 3 times. That's when he'll make his move. Then we're involving law enforcement. Already planned. I'll call Sheriff Winters tonight. But Avon, document everything, the debts, the creditors, the timeline. I want it ready for when this is over. After we hung up, I stood on that balcony for a long time. Below, families walked through the resort, laughing, living normal lives. My son was inside, planning to kill me. I called Darrell Winters. We'd worked together 20 years when I was a prosecutor. Gordon, been a while. Darrell, I need your help. Listen carefully. I told him everything. The recordings, the evidence, Alan's information about Highland Bowl, Avon's financial findings. Long silence. Then, you're absolutely sure? I have recordings, witness testimony, financial records. And tomorrow, if I'm right, he's going to try to kill me on Highland Bowl during the snowstorm. Jesus, Gordon, can you help? I'm 3 hours away, but I know people at Pitkin County Sheriff's Office. Give me tonight. I'll have someone positioned by morning. Close enough to respond, but not so close they'll spook your son. He paused. This is going to break your heart. It already has, I said quietly. But I'd rather have a broken heart than be dead. Tomorrow, then. And Gordon, be careful. Sons who'll kill for money are unpredictable. That night, I lay awake listening to the sounds of the resort. Somewhere in the next room, Jeremiah was probably awake too, making his final plans. Tomorrow, one of us would win. I intended to make sure it was me. February 12th. Morning came with gray skies and the smell of snow in the air. The forecast had been updated overnight. Heavy snowfall expected by early afternoon. Perfect conditions for an accident. Jeremiah appeared at breakfast with forced enthusiasm. Dad, one last run before the storm hits? Highland Bowl opens at 10. We could catch first tracks. Highland Bowl? I set down my coffee. That's expert terrain, Jeremiah. I haven't skied anything like that in 15 years. You'll be fine. I'll be right there with you. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Besides, wouldn't it be great to say you conquered it? One last adventure before we head home tomorrow. Quinley looked up from her phone. You two have fun. I'll stay with the kids. Her voice was too bright, too casual, the performance of a caring wife. I glanced at Grace and Daniel. They were quiet, picking at their pancakes. Grace caught my eye and quickly looked away. Sure, I said. One last run. At 9:45, we geared up in the lobby. Jeremiah checked his pockets, then patted them theatrically. Shoot. Forgot my phone in the room. Oh well, won't need it on the mountain anyway. He grinned. Just us and the powder. No GPS tracking, just like Quinley had said in that hallway conversation. The emergency beacon was in my jacket pocket, already activated it to silent mode. The recording device was running. Everything was in place. We took the chairlift up. Jeremiah's leg bounced the entire ride. He kept checking the sky, watching the clouds roll in faster than predicted. Storm's coming early, he said. Looks that way. At the top, the wind had picked up. Snow was already starting to fall, light flurries that would soon become a whiteout. The visibility was maybe 100 yards and dropping fast. We skied to the edge of Highland Bowl. Below us, the slope fell away sharply, a pristine expanse of untouched snow disappearing into the growing storm. No one else was up here. Too dangerous, too isolated. Exactly what Jeremiah had planned. You ready? He asked. After you. No, you go first. I'll follow. Make sure you're okay. He smiled. That same smile he'd given me at dinner 2 weeks ago when he'd asked me to sign away my life. We stood there for a moment. The snow fell harder. The wind howled around us. Then Jeremiah's face changed. The mask slipped. His expression went cold, hard, resolved. You know, Dad, he said quietly, I found out you went to a lawyer. That was very careless of you. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. Jeremiah, what are you doing? What I should have done months ago. He took a step toward me. You've had a good life. 67 years. That's more than a lot of people get. Your debts, I said. The 85,000. This won't solve anything. His eyes widened. How do you... Then his face twisted with rage. Of course. You've been spying on me. My own father. I was protecting myself. Protecting yourself? From what? From your own son? He laughed, bitter and sharp. You spent my entire childhood protecting everyone except me? Too busy saving the world to notice your own kid needed you. Jeremiah, shut up. He was breathing hard now, desperate. You don't get to talk anymore. You don't get to judge me. That house, that money, it should have been mine years ago. But you just kept holding on, kept controlling everything. The snow was thick now, visibility down to 50 yards. Anyone watching from below would see nothing but white. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I'm sorry I wasn't there enough. But this... Too late for sorry. He moved fast. His hands hit my chest hard. I felt myself falling backward, the world tilting. The slope rushed up and I was sliding, tumbling down the mountainside in a chaos of snow and sky. His voice followed me down, nearly lost in the wind. Storm's getting bad. Hope you get lost out there, old man. Call it an accident. But 30 years of skiing in my youth hadn't been forgotten. My body remembered. I twisted, used my edges, grabbed at the snow. 40 yards down, I caught a tree, stopped my slide. My recorder had captured everything. Every word. I pulled out the beacon and pressed the emergency button. Not the silent one, the full alarm. Somewhere above, Jeremiah would be skiing down now, heading back to the resort to play the devastated son. To tell everyone how his father had insisted on that dangerous trail, how he'd tried to talk him out of it, how tragic it all was. But the mountain patrol had been on standby since dawn. Within 10 minutes, I heard the snowmobile engines. Mr. Hartwell? A patrol member in bright orange appeared through the snow. Are you injured? No, but I need to get to the resort immediately, and I need to go in through the service entrance. He looked confused, but nodded. Sheriff Winters briefed us. Let's move. They had a sled ready. As they strapped me in, I looked up the mountain. Somewhere up there, Jeremiah thought he'd won. He was about to learn how wrong he was. They brought me in through the back of the resort, through service corridors that guests never saw. I changed into dry clothes they'd prepared, warm, clean, as if I'd never been on that mountain at all. Sheriff Winters was waiting in a staff meeting room. You got everything? I handed him my phone. Audio of the entire incident, every word. He listened, his expression growing darker. When it finished, he looked at me. That's your son. That's my son. Gordon, I'm sorry. Don't be. Just help me finish this. By 3:30 p.m., everything was in place. The hotel manager had cleared the lobby area near the fireplace. Diana arrived with the tablet. Security footage from the chairlift cameras. Crystal clear despite the snow. You could see Jeremiah's face. See the push. See everything. Winters positioned his deputies. The resort security chief stood by with the documentation. We waited. At 4:32 p.m., the lobby doors opened. Jeremiah walked in, snow-covered and wet, his face a careful mask of concern. He'd probably spent the last 2 hours establishing his alibi, maybe talking to patrol about looking for his father, making a show of worry. He started toward the front desk, then froze. I was sitting by the fireplace in a leather armchair, a mug of hot chocolate in my hands, completely dry, completely calm. The expression on his face, I'll remember it forever. Shock, confusion, then slowly, dawning horror as he registered who else was in the room. Sheriff Winters in full uniform, 2 deputies, Diana with her briefcase, the resort security chief with his tablet, and me, watching him with the same calm I'd used in 1,000 courtrooms. Hello, Jeremiah, I said quietly. How was your ski? His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Dad, how did you... His eyes darted around the room, looking for escape, for explanation, for anything. Sit down, Winters said. No, you don't understand. Jeremiah's voice rose. It was a joke, a bad joke. We were messing around and I... Stop talking, Diana said crisply. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Dad, Jeremiah looked at me, desperate now. Tell them it was just... We were just... I took a sip of hot chocolate. Let the silence stretch. Please! He dropped to his knees right there on the lobby floor, hands clasped. Several guests stopped to stare. Please, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. The debts, the pressure, I panicked. Stand up, Jeremiah. No, Dad, listen to me. I made a mistake. Just give me a chance to... The police have questions for you. I suggest you answer them. Winters pulled him to his feet. Mr. Hartwell, we need to talk downtown. This is insane, Jeremiah tried to pull away. He's my father. This is between us. Actually, the security chief said, stepping forward with his tablet, we have camera footage from the chairlift that tells a different story. He turned the screen. Even from where I sat, I could see it. The push. The fall. Jeremiah standing there watching. Jeremiah stared at it, face draining of color. No, that's not. You can't. Jeremiah Hartwell, Winters said formally, you're being detained on suspicion of attempted murder and elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent. Attempted murder? Jeremiah's voice cracked. I'm your son. How can you do this to me? I set down my mug and stood, walked over until I was right in front of him. How can I do this? I said quietly. You tried to kill me, Jeremiah. You pushed me off a mountain and left me to die in a snowstorm. The question isn't how I can do this. The question is how you could. I was desperate. The debts, the collectors threatening me. So you decided murdering your father was the solution? Footsteps on the stairs. Quinley appeared, probably drawn by the noise. She saw the scene, Jeremiah with deputies on either side, me standing there, the sheriff, the lawyers. Her face went white. Mrs. Hartwell, Winters said, we'll need to speak with you as well. I don't understand, she said, but her voice was shaking. She understood perfectly. Winters' deputies put Jeremiah in handcuffs. The metal clicked shut with a terrible finality. Dad, Jeremiah said, quieter now. Dad, please. I'm your son. Your only son. I looked at him for a long moment. This man I'd raised. This stranger wearing my son's face. Stand up, Jeremiah, I said. The police have questions. They led him toward the door. He looked back once, eyes pleading. I turned away and walked to the window. Outside, the storm was clearing. The mountain was visible again, white and pristine and beautiful. Behind me, I heard Quinley's voice, sharp with panic. I want a lawyer. I'm not saying anything without a lawyer. That's your right, Diana said coolly. I pressed my hand against the cold glass. It was done. The trap had closed. Justice, not revenge, but justice, was in motion. And despite everything, despite the pain in my chest and the weight in my stomach, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. It was finally over. February 13th. The county jail was gray and cold, built from concrete and institutional efficiency. I sat across from Diana in the visiting area, reviewing documents. Bail hearing is set for tomorrow, she said. They'll ask for $150,000. Will Quinley pay it? Diana smiled grimly. She's trying. Called 3 banks this morning. Problem is, all their accounts are frozen pending investigation. Avon's report showed suspicious activity. Large transfers, cash withdrawals. I nodded. Jeremiah was going to sit in that cell and think about what he'd done. That afternoon, Avon delivered his full report. We met at Diana's office, spreading documents across her conference table. Your credit card, Avon said, sliding a statement toward me. The one you gave Jeremiah 4 months ago for emergencies. I scanned the charges. Online poker sites, cash advances, cryptocurrency exchanges, $45,000. He told me his car needed repairs, I said quietly. There's more. Avon produced another folder. These are loan applications. Jeremiah tried to take out a home equity loan using your house as collateral. Look at the signatures. I examined them. My signature, but wrong. The loop on the G was too tight. The H slanted the wrong way. Forgery, Diana said. That's a felony. The bank flagged it? I asked. Eventually, but he tried 3 different banks. This was systematic, Gordon. This wasn't desperation. This was a plan. February 16th. Diana filed the eviction notice against Quinley. I'd returned to Aspen, to my house that suddenly felt foreign. Everything looked the same, but I saw it differently now. That couch where Quinley had sat, plotting. That kitchen where they'd whispered about my death. The court moved fast. Emergency hearing scheduled for February 18th. Quinley's lawyer tried to argue hardship. Mrs. Hartwell has nowhere to go, Your Honor. Her husband is incarcerated. She has 2 children. Mrs. Hartwell is under investigation as an accessory. Diana countered. The property belongs to Mr. Hartwell. She has 14 days to vacate. The judge ruled in our favor. When I got home, Quinley was in the living room, surrounded by boxes. She looked up as I entered. Satisfied? Her voice was venom. Throwing your own grandchildren out on the street? The children stay, I said calmly. You leave. You can't. I absolutely can. Their social worker agrees they're better off in a stable environment, with me. You manipulative. She stopped herself, breathing hard. Jeremiah was right about you. You're a cold, calculating machine. You never cared about family. You cared about control. I set down my briefcase. I cared about family. That's why I moved here. That's why I let you live in my house. Spend my money. Treat me like an inconvenience. I gave you everything, Quinley, and you turned it into a weapon. You needed? No, you wanted. There's a difference. February 17th. The social worker, Mrs. Chen, arrived at 9 a.m. Grace and Daniel sat on the couch, small and frightened. Kids, I said gently, Mrs. Chen and I need to talk about where you'll stay while your parents sort things out. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Are we in trouble? No, buddy, you're not in trouble. Grace looked at me with Jeremiah's eyes, same shape, same color, but filled with a clarity he'd never had. Mom said you don't want us, that you only care about your money. The words hit like a physical blow. Grace, I knelt in front of her. Your grandmother, my wife, passed away before you were born. She would have loved you both so much, and I love you. I always have. I'm sorry if you ever felt differently. Then why didn't you ever play with us? Her voice cracked. Why were you always in your study? I thought about all those evenings, Quinley suggesting I rest while she handled the kids, Jeremiah telling me the children were too busy for visits, the slow, careful isolation. Because I was told you didn't want to spend time with me, I said quietly, but that stops now. If you'll let me, I'd like to get to know you both. Really know you. Daniel threw his arms around my neck. Grace followed a moment later. Mrs. Chen smiled. I think temporary custody with grandfather is appropriate. February 20th. Bail hearing. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, curious locals, people who'd heard about the prosecutor's son trying to kill him. Jeremiah was brought in wearing orange. He'd lost weight. His face was gaunt, stubbled. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Hope? Fear? His lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client has no prior record. He has ties to the community. We request bail be set at a reasonable amount. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Patricia Morales, rose. Your Honor, the defendant attempted to murder his father by pushing him off a mountain during a snowstorm. We have audio recording of the attack, video footage from resort cameras, and testimony from mountain rescue. This was premeditated attempted murder. The defendant is a flight risk and a danger. The evidence is circumstantial. We have him on tape, Morales said flatly, confessing, pushing, hoping his father would get lost and die. There's nothing circumstantial about it. The judge reviewed the evidence. When the audio played, Jeremiah's voice echoing through the courtroom, cold and vicious, I watched the jury box. Every face showed the same expression. Disgust. Bail is denied, the judge said. Next hearing, March 15th. Jeremiah's lawyer protested, but Jeremiah just sat there, staring at me. I stared back. February 21st. Avon called me at 8 in the morning. You need to sit down for this, he said. I was already sitting, watching Daniel eat cereal. What did you find? The loan applications. They weren't Jeremiah's endgame. They were step 2. He explained it all. Jeremiah and Quinley had planned to secure a $500,000 loan against my house. The money would be transferred to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, already set up, waiting. After they had the money, they'd stage your accident, make it look like you'd gotten confused, wandered off, fell. With the loan secured and you dead, they'd inherit everything free and clear. I felt cold. How long have they been planning this? At least 6 months, probably longer. That afternoon, Avon brought me more evidence. Text messages recovered from Quinley's phone. She'd been talking to someone named Marcus Reed, calling himself a financial consultant. Quinley, how soon can we move on the old man? Marcus, once the loan clears, make it look natural. Fall, heart attack, whatever. Quinley, Jeremiah wants to do it himself. Marcus, emotions make mistakes. Be smart. Quinley, he's getting suspicious. Found him talking to a lawyer. Marcus, then move faster. Marcus Reed is a con artist, Avon said. 3 priors for fraud. He's been coaching them. February 26th. The lab results came back. I'd saved one of those herbal tea packages from October. Avon had sent it to a private lab for analysis. Benzodiazepines. Low dose, but enough to cause drowsiness, confusion, memory problems, mixed with herbal ingredients to mask the taste. Where did she get these? I asked. Avon showed me the evidence. Cryptocurrency transactions, dark web purchases. Quinley had been buying sedatives online, mixing them into my tea for weeks. The plan, he said, was to make you seem incompetent. Then Jeremiah would file for guardianship. Once he controlled your affairs, the accident would happen. I thought about those mornings, the fog in my head, the day I'd forgotten where I parked. They'd been drugging me, slowly eroding my mind, preparing everyone to believe I was losing it. They were going to put me in a nursing home, I said quietly, make everyone think I couldn't handle myself anymore. Then empty your accounts and kill you. Yes. February 28th, the district attorney's office called a press conference. Patricia Morales stood at the podium, professional and fierce. Today we are announcing additional charges against Jeremiah Hartwell and Quinley Hartwell. Jeremiah Hartwell faces charges of attempted first-degree murder, elder financial abuse, forgery, and fraud. Quinley Hartwell is charged as an accessory to attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and administering a controlled substance without consent. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. What's the expected sentence? Colorado takes elder abuse seriously. Combined, these charges carry a maximum of 20 years imprisonment. That evening, I sat with Grace and Daniel in the living room. They were quiet, processing everything. The news had been on every channel. Is Dad going to prison? Daniel asked. I wouldn't lie to them. Probably, yes. For how long? A long time. Grace looked at me. Did he really try to hurt you? Yes. Why? How do you explain to a 12-year-old that her father valued money more than life, that he'd been willing to kill for it? Your father made some very bad choices, I said carefully. He got into debt, and instead of asking for help, he tried to solve it in the worst way possible. Mom helped him, didn't she? Grace's voice was small. Yes. I heard her on the phone sometimes, talking about money, about you. She looked up at me with eyes full of tears. I should have told someone. Grace, no. I pulled her close. You're a child. This isn't your responsibility. None of this is your fault. But I knew something was wrong. And you were scared. That's normal. You did nothing wrong. Daniel leaned against me. Can we really stay with you? As long as you want to. Forever? I kissed the top of his head. Forever. March 1st. Diana called with the final tally. Jeremiah had stolen $45,000 from my credit card, attempted to fraudulently obtain a $500,000 loan, spent months planning my murder, drugged me repeatedly, forged my signature on multiple legal documents. The prosecutor has everything, Diana said. Audio, video, financial records, lab results, text messages. This is the most well-documented attempted murder case I've ever seen. When's the trial? May 15th. But Gordon, she paused. Jeremiah's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. Reduced charges in exchange for pleading guilty. No deals. He's your son. He tried to kill me, Diana. He drugged me. He was willing to put me in a home and empty my accounts while I deteriorated. No deals. I want a full trial. I want everything on record. All right. She sounded sad. I'll let them know. That night, I stood in my study, looking at old photos. Jeremiah as a boy, gap-toothed and smiling. Jeremiah's high school graduation, his wedding day. Where had I lost him? Or had he ever really been there? I put the photos away. Tomorrow, I'd take Grace and Daniel to the park. We'd fly kites, maybe get ice cream. Build the relationship that should have existed all along. Justice was in motion. The law would handle Jeremiah and Quinley. My job now was to give my grandchildren the stability they'd never had, to show them what family really meant. It wouldn't undo the past, but it might save their future. And mine. March 1st through 8th. Preliminary hearings. I sat in the courtroom every day watching the legal machinery grind forward. Jeremiah's lawyer, a tired-looking man named Martin Breslow, kept trying to negotiate. Mr. Hartwell, he approached me during a recess on March 3rd. My client is willing to plead guilty to lesser charges. Aggravated assault instead of attempted murder. He'd accept 10 years. No. Mr. Hartwell, please. He's your son. A trial will be difficult for everyone. I looked at him. Your client pushed me off a mountain and hoped I'd die in a snowstorm so he could inherit my house. There will be a trial. The prosecutor is confident of conviction. 20 years is a long time. Then he shouldn't have tried to kill me. Breslow walked away, shaking his head. March 5th. Quinley tried to contact me. Diana intercepted the call. She wants to talk, Diana said. Claims she has information that could help the case. She wants a deal. Almost certainly. Tell the prosecutor I'm not interested in hearing from her. Whatever she has to say, she can say it under oath. That same day, news broke that Quinley had filed for divorce. Emergency filing, citing abandonment and mental cruelty. Trying to distance herself from Jeremiah, to paint herself as another victim. Patricia Morales, the prosecutor, called me that evening. Her lawyer's trying to flip her, testify against Jeremiah in exchange for reduced charges. Will you take it? I don't need her testimony. I have audio, video, text messages, financial records, but it might expedite things. No deals. Not for her, not for him. I want the full trial. I want everything on record. Every lie, every manipulation, every dollar they stole. I want it documented. She was quiet for a moment. All right. We'll proceed as planned. March 9th. The custody hearing. Mrs. Chen, the social worker, testified first. The children have shown marked improvements since being placed with their grandfather. They're more communicative, less anxious. Grace's teacher reports she's participating in class for the first time all year. The judge looked at me. Mr. Hartwell, you're 67 years old. Are you prepared for the challenges of raising 2 young children? Your Honor, I should have been raising them all along. I was prevented from doing so by their parents' manipulation. I have the means, the time, and the desire to give them a stable home. And more importantly, they want to stay with me. I'd like to hear from the children. Grace spoke first. She was nervous, hands clenched in her lap. I want to stay with Grandpa. He listens to us. He asks about our day. He helps with homework. Her voice cracked. He makes us feel safe. Daniel just nodded, tears streaming down his face. Please don't make us leave. The judge granted temporary custody, pending final determination after the criminal trial. Walking out of the courthouse, Grace slipped her hand into mine. Thank you, Grandpa. For what? For not giving up on us. I squeezed her hand. Never. March 10th. Property hearing. The bank's lawyer presented their case. Multiple loan applications were filed using Mr. Hartwell's property as collateral. All contained forged signatures. We're seeking confirmation that these applications are void and that Mr. Hartwell retains full ownership. Jeremiah's lawyer tried to argue that there was ambiguity about ownership intentions. The judge cut him off. Mr. Breslow, there's audio recording of your client stating he planned to kill his father to inherit property. There's video of him pushing his father off a mountain. There's no ambiguity here. The property remains with Mr. Hartwell. All fraudulent applications are void. Next case. March 12th. Diana called with the trial date. May 15th, 2 months from now. And the charges? Attempted first-degree murder, elder financial abuse, forgery, fraud. If convicted on all counts, Jeremiah faces 18 to 20 years. Quinley faces 12 to 15 as an accessory. I stood in my study, the same room where I'd first discovered their plot. 2 months, then it would finally be over. Gordon, Diana's voice was gentle. How are you holding up? I'm tired, I admitted, but I need to see this through. You've done everything right. The evidence is overwhelming. They will be convicted. It's not about conviction, it's about... I paused, searching for words. It's about standing up, about showing Grace and Daniel that when people hurt you, even people you love, you don't just accept it. You fight back. You demand justice. They're lucky to have you. After she hung up, I sat for a long time, thinking about everything that had led here. 7 months ago, I'd moved to Aspen full of hope. Now my son was facing 20 years in prison, but Grace and Daniel were safe. My home was secure, and I'd learned something important. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. Draw a line, demand better, even when it breaks your heart. March 15th, the jail visitation room was cold, sterile. Cinder block walls painted institutional beige, metal table bolted to the floor, plastic chairs, a camera in the corner, red light blinking. They brought Jeremiah in wearing orange. He looked like a stranger, gray streaks in his hair that hadn't been there a month ago, gaunt face, hollow cheeks, trembling hands that he couldn't quite control. He sat across from me. The chair scraped against the concrete floor. We stared at each other for a long moment. "Dad," he finally said, his voice cracked. "Thank you for coming." I didn't respond, just watched him, this man who'd come from my body, who I'd raised, who'd tried to end my life. "I know you're angry. I know I can't undo what I did." He swallowed hard, Adam's apple bobbing. "But I need you to understand. The pressure, the debts. Quinley constantly demanding more. I lost my way. I wasn't thinking clearly." "You were thinking very clearly," I said quietly. "You planned this for 6 months. The teas, the loan applications, the mountain. That's not panic, Jeremiah. That's premeditation. I was desperate, so you decided to kill me." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and final. He flinched like I'd slapped him. "It wasn't... I didn't..." He put his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. I don't know what I was thinking. The debts were crushing me. The collectors were threatening. Quinley kept saying if we just had the money, everything would be fine. And I thought if you were gone, I could solve everything. By murdering your father. I'm not a murderer. I lost control. No. I leaned forward, hands flat on the cold metal table. You made choices. Every single day for months, you chose this path. You chose to steal my credit card. You chose to forge my signature. You chose to drug my tea. You chose to push me off that mountain. I kept my voice level, calm, prosecutor's voice. "This isn't something that happened to you, Jeremiah. This is who you chose to become." Tears ran down his face, dripping onto the orange fabric. "I can change. I can be better. Just give me another chance. Please. I'm your son. I gave you chances. Thousands of them. I gave you my home, my trust, my money, my love, and you turned every bit of it into ammunition against me. Dad, please. Do you remember the last time we had dinner together before the ski trip? You looked me in the eye and asked me why I couldn't make things easier for you. You said I wouldn't live forever anyway." I paused. Let that sink in. "You'd already decided to kill me, and you said that to me at dinner, with your children sitting right there watching." He sobbed, harsh and ugly. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Are you sorry you did it? Or are you sorry you got caught?" He looked up at me, mouth opening. No answer came. Because we both knew the truth. I stood. The chair scraped back. "The court will decide your fate, but I've already decided mine." "What does that mean?" I looked at him one last time. This man who'd been my little boy once, who I'd taught to ride a bike, who I'd loved despite everything, who'd tried to end my life for money. "You made your choices. Now live with them." I walked to the door. His voice followed me, desperate now. "Dad! Dad, please! Don't leave me here. I need you." I stopped at the threshold but didn't turn around. My hand rested on the doorframe. I spent 30 years prosecuting people who hurt others for their own gain. I never thought I'd have to prosecute my own son. But justice doesn't care about blood. And neither can I anymore. I walked out. The door closed behind me with a heavy click. Final. Absolute. Outside, the March sun was bright and warm. Spring coming to Colorado, melting the last of winter's snow. New beginnings. My phone buzzed. Text from Grace. "Grandpa, when will you be home?" "Daniel wants to play chess." I smiled. Genuinely smiled. For the first time since this all began. On my way home, I typed, "Tell Daniel to set up the board. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I got in my car and started the long drive back to Aspen. Back to my house that was truly mine again. Back to my grandchildren who deserved better than the parents they'd been given. The trial would happen in May. Jeremiah and Quinley would be convicted. The evidence was overwhelming, Patricia had assured me. They'd go to prison for a long time. And I'd be there in the courtroom to watch it happen. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I'd promised myself, that night back in February when I'd first heard Quinley's phone call, that I would never again let anyone make me a victim in my own life. Justice had prevailed. The law had worked exactly as it should. My son would pay for what he'd done. But more importantly, I'd saved Grace and Daniel. I'd given them a future free from manipulation and lies. I'd shown them that you can love someone and still hold them accountable. That family isn't an excuse for abuse. That dignity matters more than blood. The road stretched ahead, winding through the mountains. Snow-capped peaks gleamed in the afternoon sun. Somewhere behind me, Jeremiah sat in that cell, living with his choices. Somewhere ahead, my grandchildren waited, ready to build something better. I'd lost a son, but I'd saved 2 children and reclaimed my own life. Sometimes that's what justice looks like. Not perfect, not painless, but necessary. I turned on the radio. Classical music filled the car. Brahms, something gentle and hopeful. The mountains rose around me, beautiful and indifferent. I was going home. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.